Wait a minute. So the pants that you're wearing, you
Stolen.
Stolen. I say that too, but I didn't steal them.
Earned.
No, it's going to be, I suppose it's an exaggeration to make you feel a bit more kind of street. Yeah, I stole these. No, I didn't steal them.
But did you? Do you ask costume?
Yeah, I mean, listen, actors are pilferers, good ones are. There's a quote, I can't remember what the exact formulation was, but someone says like, mediocrities borrow, geniuses steal. And I think, I'm not suggesting that me stealing trousers means that I'm a genius. But anything I can do to edge me towards it.
It's like, they're expecting them back for the next season.
But I think there is a thing with actors that they like to say they steal things. It makes them feel like they're a bit more dangerous. When in fact, someone in costume's just been nice.
So you got those from The Diplomat?
These from The Diplomat, or at least, no, I got the designer for The Diplomat because they had a pet, and then I sought the people out. But like,
You've been on some unique sets too, where like
I've been on some sets
Illusionists. I mean, you're like Prince Leopold, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
I've been on some sets so unique that nothing is stealable.
Yeah, exactly.
I can tell you that when you play a Nazi,
Yeah, I'm like Man on the High Castle, not taking anything from
every prop had a fucking swastika on it. And the point is that after 4 years of doing it, you'd become swastika blind. Because you were so used to and this is actually what's interesting about that is that's what happens to people. Really? What is shocking one day just becomes background the next. What is fantastic one day becomes blah the next. We kind of bring everything to a medium. And I was working, like the first day I put on my costume, everyone was like backing away from me, and I felt, I feel kind of powerful, in this black Nazi uniform. Within a couple of days, people were like, hey.
Right.
Rufus! It's just like becomes like your clothes. So you just, and we all became really inured to what we were in. You pick up a cereal packet and you think, isn't that amazing? So I'd have all the Nazi memorabilia on it, and all the props were so incredible. And then you take something home, and then you'd look at it a week later and go, I've got to bone this. Do you know what I mean?
Because no one can come into my house and see this in my bathroom.
But it was a very interesting object lesson in how this happens to people, is that something that is unbelievably shocking, one day, your body just, your brain just normalizes
becomes desensitized.
Just becomes, So we became
really interesting.
Not to the reality of it. We were talking about that all the time, but just the kind of signifies.
Signifies, like the visuals of it.
Yeah. So this is a very long-winded way of saying I couldn't steal napkins.
With these ones, the girl, no one on set spoke American. That was one of the weirder things.
English.
I didn't speak American.
Sorry.
American is crazy.
They didn't speak English.
You're working with foreigners?
You sound like one of those people at the airport who are angry at you don't speak American.
You lost my damn luggage. I'm looking for
these non-Americans of which you speak.
Yeah, no one spoke English. So even on set, I didn't know when they yelled cut.
All right.
Me and my buddy would just be acting, and he'd be like, "Oh yeah," because he spoke Armenian. He would fuck with me. My friend would just let me go, and he'd be like, "Oh, they yelled cut 2 minutes ago." I was like, "Edgar, tell me when they yelled cut."
Oh my god!
And with the
and
costume,
you're producing gold.
Oh, I thought it was.
You know what that reminds me of?
Writing the speech.
Meanwhile, I look at the handheld and it's facing the ground. I'm like, oh, so the camera's not on.
That reminds me of the scene in Lost in Translation when the Japanese director is trying to explain to
Bill Murray.
Bill Murray,
so good.
And it's a 5 minute, and he's like, "Is that all he said?"
But that happened. Yeah. And the costume girl was so sweet, and I was like, "Can I take the pants?" And she's like, "Pants, pants." I was like, "Me, take them home." And she was like, "Pants." I was like, okay, they're not coming back.
I'm definitely agreed on the pants part.
Yeah. I'm taking them.
They're a good steal.
You explain them in a Christopher Walken home.
Listen, I need the pants to go home with me. Taking them. I did. I took that and a T-shirt. And so, do you on most of your sets, besides the Nazi stuff,
most actors, if they can,
yeah,
you know what I mean. Like I did a show where I had loads of clothes afterwards, and because my character Roger Salas had the same initials as me, they had all of these shirts that said RS. But I didn't want to be the kind of guy that wears an RS.
Yeah, just
so it's a real conundrum because the shit's expensive and it's free. And I was brought up that way. I'd be told off for not licking the plate growing up.
Yeah.
And that's why first time I ever went to a set was a real shock to me because I was playing a heroin addict, right? In the first film I ever did. And I'd spent weeks let's see how method I could get. I was 21. I was I went to Scotland on my own to learn the accent, and I was eating nothing, drinking white wine, eating yogurt, and smoking cigarettes. That's all I did for a month, and I turned up like that. And I put on most of that weight back in the first week because there were free sausages. I was like, what are you doing with these sandwiches? Oh, we're throwing them away. They said, you're not throwing those away. I'm sharing a flat with some guys.
Yeah.
So the end of the day, they'd give me the sandwiches covered in cellophane, and I'd take them home. And like, I wasn't really sharing with anyone. I just eat the sandwiches in the car. And I just put, because this thing of like plenty,
That's so funny. It's like, you're playing a heroin addict. Like, yeah, I'm in recovery.
Yes,
okay.
exactly.
Gaining
Well,
a little bit of weight.
recovered
I look
within a
healthy.
week.
Thank you.
Now, for that, you say like you're young. You're like you just want to do the best you can. It's like you're thinking method acting, and you came up classically trained.
Well,
or
not
what?
really. I mean, the drama school I went to, Central, it's been going since like the 1930s.
Oh, wow.
Laurence Olivier went there. Like lots of people. But their idea is you can be whatever kind of actor you want to be there. Like there were people in my year. I was kind of a bit shocked when I first got there because I was really obsessed with method actors. That's what I wanted. And I was like, I'd read Stanislavski, I'd read all the books, and I was like, it was probably the best place for me because they were more about, but we can't hear you. You could method yourself till you're blue in the face. If people can't hear you, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can be like feeling it, but if it's not reaching across, who gives a shit?
So different than film.
Well, yeah, but even so, I mean, like, people talk a lot about process. I think people talk too much about process because in the end, how someone gets where they get, whether they're faking it, whether they feel it, I don't give a fuck because there are brilliant actors of each kind. There are plenty of people who would describe themselves as method actors who are boring to watch. And there's plenty of people who will say to you, I just learned the lines, who are doing something else. They might not even know that they're doing something else. So I think beware of how people describe themselves.
I kind of feel like that's because I went to Stella Adler in New York.
Yeah, yeah.
But I use techniques or things that inspire me from a bunch of different things. It's not like I'm like, oh, this is my technique and this is what I choose. I feel like you're influenced by a bunch of different things.
Yeah,
that becomes your own process, your own.
Yeah, but one of the biggest parts of it that is not to be neglected is just pretending. Do you know what I mean? There's lots of people who will say, well, when in doubt. I mean, I did a play once when I cried for real, sometimes. One time I did the play. We were doing it at the Edinburgh Theatre Festival, and nothing happened. So I just decided, I'm going to just boo-hoo this shit. I'm just going to really commit to fake tears because I've got not. And, I tend to believe if it's not happening, don't strain for it, do something else. But this one time, I just completely, and people in the cast were like, Jesus, man, you really got me.
Really?
I was like, really?
Yeah. The one performance
No, but there's something in that. It doesn't really matter what experience you're having. I mean, for me, if I'm really feeling it, it helps. But I've worked with people who are really feeling it before.
Yeah, it matters what they're feeling.
Yeah, no,
Right?
exactly. So I just think, people, it doesn't really matter what you say. You know what I mean?
How was playing, because one of the first plays I did in New York, I did American Buffalo, where I'm playing a young drug addict.
Yeah.
And it was hard. I had a hard time. And the scene partner I had, his name was John. He was like 68.
Yeah.
And he took me aside. He goes, you're not there. I was like, what do you mean I'm not there? He's like, your whole brain should be thinking about the drug, even when you're talking about me. And he took me through this exercise where I was squeezing his arm.
Yeah.
And eventually my arm started to burn and I couldn't squeeze anymore. And he had me keep squeezing and start the scene. And I kept squeezing his arm the whole scene. And by the end, I didn't even remember my hand. I was just focused on my arms.
But that's a difficult thing to do 8 times a week for 6 months, isn't it?
Yeah. It was so difficult. It was trying to get my brain to work in a different way. It was so challenging.
Yeah.
Was it hard for you to do that for one of your first roles?
Yeah, but this is what I mean about faking it sometimes. It's like I'd had experience myself, not with the same level of drugs, but I'd known a heroin addict quite well and was very fond of. Sometimes to tell you the truth, when people thought I was doing really good heroin acting, I was just doing my mum drunk. And just knowing what to steal from, when to cheat, having a slightly, as far as I'm concerned, I did all the work that I could, and then I trusted it. And in the end, you just go with your imagination, and sometimes you do all the research in the world. If you just get an idea to do something completely the opposite, do it. Do it with conviction.
Yeah.
Play.
How much of it is what you want to do when you get to set, and then what the director asks of you? Because they can be two different things
what I
sometimes,
wanna
right? It's what you want.
Well, you come with what you want to do.
Come with what you want to do.
You come with something.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Make a decision. And, you know, I think the most important thing, I think, is not to get caught up in other people's descriptions of the world. You know, when it says in a script, he cries, what happens is you think of actors in things crying. And then it's like what you call a game, you know, a game of telephone, you call it here. That it becomes a description of, it becomes a copy of a copy of a copy of a copy. Reality is sometimes almost wrong.
Yeah.
Reality, you'll see someone doing something and you think, oh, I suppose that's someone breaking down, but in their own way. I suppose that's someone happy.
Yeah.
I suppose that is someone, you know, and it's different. And very often it doesn't correspond to what we see represented in films and plays, because it's become like a generalized thing. You're supposed to laugh at a certain point and you manufacture this thing, you know. I realized a long time ago that stage directions really screwed me up.
Really?
That if it's, I mean, like, he laughs, I would think, okay, I have to laugh.
Yeah.
So it became a kind of ah thing.
Forced.
And I thought I couldn't laugh. What I couldn't do is do one on command when I didn't find something funny. And then I did a play and I realized at no point did it say he laughed, but I laughed all the way through it. So, you know, it's a good idea to kind of not worry about how other people describe things and just try to forget all that.
I would struggle with that. If I was reading something and I didn't really find it funny and I knew I had to laugh there in the script, I don't know if I could do it. I'd be like, I can't laugh. Like,
Do you think
I would struggle.
with theater, it gives you more room to play around with that? Because when you're on set, it's like, we need to get these shots and move on, compared to theater. At least for my experience in the school part of it, was like, you get to explore a little bit more. You get to like have a little more trial and error in rehearsals and like playing around.
Yeah, what I think is, I used to have a problem with when I did plays, is I would really hit a very kind of a peak in late rehearsals. And then I was terrified that once that kind of buzz went away, it would fall flat. And it did, because I would lose the kind of hair standing up, you know, when you first get something, that feeling. And then it would go away, because we'd only do 2 or 3 performances. And really by the time we'd finished doing something, it had gone off. You know, the first one would be, for me, like great, if I was lucky. And then the second one, I'd be trying to reach that again. Then I found out if I did a play for a long time, this is when I started working for real, that once that goes away, what replaces it is relaxation. And knowing, being so comfortable in what you're doing, that real things start to bubble up out of that relaxation that are so much more playful and alive and connected. So that's what I love about doing theatre. You do something for such a long time that you can, any part of your mind that is about trying to remember it, trying to know where to go, is completely taken care of. And the ability to be playful and change it really grows. So I've learned that with filming, the more I know it, the more freedom I have. And I used to think that like half knowing it made me kind of more real, you know, but that's bullshit. I remember being pulled aside by a director and him saying, because he'd noticed me, a scene just completely going down the tubes after I'd done it really, really well the time before. And he said, beware of false freedoms. And it's taken me years to realize what he meant. It's this idea of like not committing because it makes you free. That's a tyranny. That's bullshit.
Yeah.
Actually really nailing down the things that are unchangeable, then you have total freedom within it.
I felt that in acting school. I would be so nervous for different classes or different scenes I had to do. And it was because of lack of preparation. And my teacher was like, freedom comes from preparation.
Absolutely.
If you're so prepped where you're not even thinking about dialogue or you're not thinking about anything but your character or just what's going on in the room, that gives you freedom to play. But if you're worrying about that one line that you've forgotten the last 5, your whole brain's there.
It's shameful how many years it's taken me to learn that for real, you know?
I'll probably deal with it for the rest of my life.
You know, sometimes you have to relearn these things, you know, especially if you have a lucky day when you're not prepared and it comes out great. That's what fucked me early on, is I would turn up for auditions and I'd wing it. And it would sometimes coincide with something that would just land. And I'd think, oh, you know, it's like the one time at drama school, I turned up to a run-through of King Lear, in which I was playing, it's what happens, it's kind of cute at drama school. They divide the role of King Lear into 4, and I'd play the first quarter of King Lear. And me and my mate, Pete DeJersey, went out the night before, and we got really drunk at a party. And I woke up with my face at the bottom of the stairs, and my feet halfway up, like that, literally, with this purple head, because my blood was all in my head. And he shook me and said, we've got the run-through in half an hour. I don't know what I was, this was my idea of like keeping it real, rock and roll, you know. And I arrived to play King Lear, and somehow something happened. And it was accidentally the greatest acting I'd ever done, or at least maybe I'm exaggerating, but it came out well. And I remember for a while going on this journey of like, oh, well, that's the secret. Friends, it is not the secret. It went really wrong very quick. Thank God it went wrong.
Where did it go wrong?
Well, it stopped working. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it stopped. I don't mean it went wrong as in like, yeah, I developed a real problem. Like, that would have suited me fine at the time if I could have exchanged that. Luckily, that did not happen. What happened? I mean, I still ended up with a bit of a problem, you know. But what happened was I couldn't do it to order. I couldn't get the right kind of hangover to produce good acting. It just happened once, and you know that was just the right kind of headache that suited that role on that particular Saturday morning in Room B at the Central School of Speech and Drama.
Yeah, if you were playing a doctor, different story.
Oh, well, it was terrible for light comedy, I discovered. You know, really good tunnel vision was great if you needed to produce a single tear while staring at a light. But that's not acting.
Yeah.
You know?
You did Hamlet, which
I played Fortinbras in Hamlet.
right, 4-hour film.
Yeah.
Worked with like an immense, incredible cast.
Yeah. I was hanging out with Jack Lemmon.
Really?
You know, it was really, really amazing. Yeah, Jack Lemmon. I mean, I've been in a film with Charlton Heston. That's ridiculous.
Robin Williams.
Oh, yeah, all of them. Low
My
budget.
goodness.
Like, it was an insane, insane cast.
How impressionable were they on you? I mean, because what age were you at that time?
In my 20s, I don't know. I mean, I didn't spend much time with them. I came in and did my stuff because I wasn't available. I came in early and did my stuff with most of it on blue screen. So I would literally come on and have to look over here and go, okay, Hamlet's dead. I'd look at across and go, oh. Like, and I'd have to do all that and then sit on a throne and like, so that was really, really difficult for me. I wasn't very experienced at the time. And then I came in and did a couple of days in the snow at Blenheim Palace. And that's when, you know, we were sitting, just having coffee, like huddling around a heater, and it was Julie Christie and Jack Lemmon, and it's insane. And I remember, you know, Jack Lemmon, who's Some Like It Hot, you know, all of these incredible, the apartment, and the sound guy, I was just watching on set, and he said, come here, put these headphones on. And Jack Lemmon was doing a scene on the battlements, because he was playing like one of the guards, you know. He said, I want you to hear something historic. And I put on the headphones. He said, listen to what Jack Lemmon says before each take. And I heard Jack Lemmon before the take go, magic time, which is apparently what he said
Really?
before every take all the way through his career.
I love
Just
that.
as a little kind of spell.
It's like little
That's
things
so
that people
cool.
do.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
Yeah.
so cool. He's one of the greatest.
Oh,
Do you have anything like that you do before each take, or
I'm still trying to find the thing. And I'm not joking. I am open to whatever. You know, and different things for different jobs. But I
Yeah.
like to kind of, I used to think that what I was after was tension, but the things I was doing now I realized was to make me relax, distract me from self-consciousness. You know, because that's the killer, that's the devil, you know. And that's the thing I'm always fighting. And that, like, I love the freedom of that going away for a while, you know. So I used to kind of make myself a bit dizzy, or even just go on stage with things in my pockets or whatever. Like,
Actions.
Yeah,
little-
just action, things to do, so things to want, things to. But if you have, you know, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I feel that way anytime I'm on set. The best feeling, and I don't know if every actor has this, but I
Yeah.
feel like a lot, whenever it's fun to, is when you do a scene and then they yell cut and you're like, how was it? Because I don't know what happened.
Yeah, yeah.
And that for me is such a fun feeling where you're not in your own head, you're just in it. And one time on this last movie I did, everyone starts laughing at the end of the take, and I'm like, whew. And my friend's like, why'd you call me Michael? My character's name is Matt. And I was like, I called you that? And he goes, yeah, I don't know why. We just continued the whole scene, but you completely called me the wrong name. I was like, wasn't even in my, I don't know how I did it.
Yeah, but the rest of the tape
the rest was great.
might have been amazing.
But I had
yeah.
no idea that I said it. I had no idea that I did anything wrong, but I just forgot everything that happened. It's such a freeing
Yeah, it's a
feeling.
good enough sign for that to be. You know,
You know what I find really interesting about acting, actors, actresses is we always talk about how it's an endurance race. And it's like you have highs, you have lows, you have these stretches where you're on fire, there might be stretches where things are a little bit quieter.
Yeah, yeah.
How in those moments where like it might not be going the way you want it to go, or how you maybe expect it to go, do you keep yourself, I guess, present or in it, you know, from being too discouraged?
I like to watch other people and go, God, he's shit. He's an asshole. Fucking hate that guy.
I do the same thing.
You do. That fucking dick. And put on weight and just become really mean. That's my way. You use your own.
I do the same thing.
Over the years, I've watched the patterns with me, and I think, there's things I've done that I'm really, really proud of in retrospect that haven't caught a lot of attention. And to be fair, there's things I've done that I think are kind of, that I've got away with.
Yeah.
I think it all ends up about even and fair. You know what I mean? It's like, it catches up.
Yeah.
I think the way the way my work is regarded, if you take into account the shit that, or times where I thought I'd do something well, and I don't think I did it so well, the things that I thought, that's not my best work, and people have congratulated me on it, I think it's about fair. So the further you pull back the camera, the easier it is to have some balance about it.
Interesting.
I was going to say, because Dark City is one that initially, I guess, critically acclaimed or box office wise didn't do as well.
Something I can say about that. Dark City I don't think I'm very good in, but I think I am in it, and I think it's a great film.
And the film has caught a cult following.
Yeah.
Ever since it's...
Yeah, but can I say something about cult followings? Cult films, it's necessary for a cult film to have a central actor who's not that good. I think it's one of the key signifiers of a cult film. It's like it hits on something, it's blah, 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 and you get a actor in the middle. I performed that function quite well in that film. And so I really think I did my job. I do think I've got better. But at the time, I wish I'd done a little less. I wish I'd had a few more years. I'm very grateful for it, and I'm very proud of it. It's just that thinking critically, I don't think it's my best work.
Well, what I didn't know about it, though, at the time, because a friend of ours worked at a video store, and he said when The Matrix came out, he said they couldn't keep Dark City on the shelves because there's so much, I guess, correlation with kind of like that dystopian future.
Well, they also use the same sets.
See, that's crazy. But people don't know. Most people don't know that. That's really interesting.
Oh yeah, no, there is a same producer, I think too. There is a correlation, but you can see why one was successful in the way that it was, and one was less successful. And I don't think that was any denigration on Dark City. I love the fact that Dark City was kind of neither one thing nor another commercially. I think that's what makes it. The seeds of its greatness for the greatness it has, are connected to why it wasn't a hit. Because they tried to sell it as a kind of, if you watch the trailers, they tried to sell it as a kind of film that it doesn't really deliver on, because very often with films, it's about how do we market this? It wasn't an easily marketable film. And I'm proud of it for that reason.
Is there any?
Though a hit would have been nice.
What's a role that you've played where at the time you're like, this is just a role, and then it had legs that you didn't even you couldn't even fathom?
I don't know that I've had that.
Really?
Yeah.
Like when you walked in, you were like, this is going to be great.
No, I've been in things that haven't worked, but I've never and will never walk into something cynically. Like I always think it's going to work. I might think, okay, so there's this problem with the script, there's this problem, but there's this line through it. And if I can do that line through it, I will be proud of my work. And sometimes, and I think that's what I'm referring to when I say things that I don't feel so good about, I'll watch the film and go, you didn't quite pull that off, You thought you could navigate that, you thought you could thread that needle, you didn't, mate. Sometimes it's your fault, sometimes it's for other reasons. So if there's something in a part, normally I've got a good sense. Sometimes it's not about how good you are, it's about, okay, and this has been very true with plays that I've done and small parts in films. I can look at something and say, okay, this is the kind of part that if I'm just as good as I ever am, my normal, in this part, people will think I'm really good because it has the parameters, it has the setting that will impress people. Because people, certainly there's been parts in plays when I thought, if I do this as well as I can do it, people will think I'm really clever.
Did you?
You know what I mean?
You play a lot of really great antagonists. Is that something when you were in drama school, or was it put on you, or do you enjoy playing characters that have a little darkness to them? You're like the villain in a fair amount of movies. Do you enjoy that type of character?
Not any more than anything else. When I was at drama school, I was pigeonholed as a comedy character actor.
Really?
Which is far closer to what I am. And then I left drama school, and my early jobs were kind of like that. Not necessarily comedy, but like I played a kind of really weird telephone sex pest in something. I played a Scottish heroin addict. I played a Dublin bus driver. I played, kind of comedy roles. And then I played a bad guy in a film. I played a romantic lead in a TV drama that was like, I wonder if I can play an actual person my age, because I'd never done that. Or I'd done it once at drama school. It had been a disaster. Mm-hmm. I wasn't very good at playing someone who wasn't like that or had an accent or, and I had to play a young man in the thing, and it was a success. And for a while I got pigeonholed playing kind of romantic leads in period dramas, and then I played a bad guy, and then that happened to me.
What
And
movie were you the bad guy in?
A Knight's Tale.
So Knight's Tale was kind of your first
Which is
role.
iconic.
It was
That's
my
an
first
iconic
bad guy
villain role.
Yeah.
Iconic villain
Well,
role.
it's the only thing I'd ever been in that was a hit. So it was a film that was a hit.
And he was the villain.
And it wasn't that much of a hit even then.
Oh no,
but it was like
that's
everyone,
a huge. That's one of my favorite Heath Ledger
But
movies
it's a film
of
that's
all
a hit.
time.
He's a villain in it. So now
and
it's
it
like
suited the shape of my face really well, being a bad guy. You know, it still does.
You have the eyes and the hair for a villain, to be
Yeah,
honest.
But then after that, it's like, oh, is the next movie like, hey, we want him back as a villain again? Like Illusionist, you know.
That was
villain.
years later, years in between of trying to get work.
Really?
And not being able to get work that wasn't the same part again, but in a shitter film. So I did a lot of theatre. I did, you know, so for years and years, it was like, I don't want to be pigeonholed. But after a while, you think, okay, I don't mind playing more bad guys as long as they're well written. The problem is if you get offered the same thing, it's normally by less smart people. Because really smart people don't want you to do something you've done before. So people that go, oh, why don't we get the guy, you know, tend to be not of the highest stripe.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So an attempt to avoid that, the only bargaining power I had was unemployment, really, or doing smaller jobs, or playing very, very different roles, but in dodgier films, which there's lots of evidence of in my
Did you always-
IMDb page. It's all there.
Did you always want to do period pieces too? Because you're like your resume is crazy.
None
with
of this
period
is stuff
pieces.
that I would have. I mean, my career is not about the thing. What I'd imagined doing and wanted to do. I mean, this is not like a regret or a complaint. I'm very grateful with the way it's gone. But what I'd seen myself doing and would still really like to do is small, independent films and theatre, and then the occasional, very distinct role in a film, you know. But what came my way, I think, because of things that I'd done and the way I look and being okay at it, was a kind of period thing, which I like, but no one wants to just do one thing. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If I got the opposite, I'd be aching to do a period and complaining about that.
With like the period piece stuff, do you think
I'd
coming
love
from-
to do a great period
Like,
piece.
well,
now, you know what I
if
mean?
you grew up in theater, right? That's a
Yeah.
lot of older stuff. Like at least for me, there
but
wasn't a
its
lot of
main
modern
feature
theater.
is not its main feature is not the period.
Yeah.
The older stuff is just about the now of the time. So what's interesting about it is the now of it. And you know, if you're playing the period too much, it's just like so often with period stuff, when it's really fantastic stuff, it doesn't really matter. It just, you know, if the role is a very similar type of role, it's if you think of yourself as a character actor, after a while it can get a little bit boring, you know. But I don't feel that way about my career now. It's just for a little while it was like that. Now the things that I used to complain about only being cast, I'd love to do them now because I haven't done them for a while. Like I might be playing another bad guy coming up soon, someone really quite scary. And I'm really excited about it because I'm playing someone who's not a scary bad guy in The Diplomat. It's like, okay, you know that that's not me, right? Now I can play around.
Anything that you wish in your career, you're like, I had it offered to me, fuck, I can't do it.
Or not
Or
just
that-
that,
or
or
that you
things
hate
that
that you
or
weren't able
things
to
that
do.
I didn't get, or things that I turned down. It's like, you know, if you really honest with yourself, I think maybe not just with career, but with life, it's like, it's very easy and very tempting and comforting to construct a story in which this happened to me, and then they did that, and then that, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, and there's a share of that
Very true.
in most of our lives. But the things that we tend to elide over is when it was us. And there's some of the big ones were me making the wrong call, you know? And there's been some stuff, and you can never know that whether someone else's success would have been your success.
So true.
And I still believe that, you know. But, again, I don't want to get specific because I don't like people talking about parts other people played, that, oh yeah, that was offered to me or whatever. But there have been a couple of things that for what seemed like good reasons at the time, I said no to. And I look back on now and go, you fucking idiot. It feel like, no, because blah, 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 whatever big reason I constructed in my head. Sometimes, maybe it was fear or something else. You know, I don't even know, but like, this makes me happier now. The knowledge that any of the things about the past that I've struggled with, it wasn't someone else's fault. A lot of the time it was mine. And the only chance of fixing shit is acknowledging that.
Yeah,
and there's lots
accountability.
of things I screwed up. Lots of opportunities I fumbled. And times that I got complacent. And then great roles and great things that I did that I didn't see the value of sufficiently at the time.
I love that.
So now I'm really trying with the things that to be lucky enough to still be going and doing great parts now at my age, to be like, there is no other this coming. If this isn't it, if the job I'm doing now, whatever that job that may be, isn't it, then what the fuck is?
Yeah.
You know, because I used to be, what am I going to get from this? What's this going to lead to? Who gives a fuck what it leads to? If when you get there, you're going to be doing the same thing, what does this lead to? It's just a constant, what is this? You're like a, you know,
Yeah.
a dog following a bit of meat on a fork, you know?
I love that.
Yeah, well, you're welcome to my 30 years of
I do
experience.
that with everything that I get. Even this film I made 2 years ago, I'm making it. And Jeremiah was like, dude, don't worry about what this is going to get you. Just freaking make the movie that you're doing right now.
The doing it is the main thing of what is going to get you. And if you don't, you have to be 100% just what it is in order for it to be the best thing that it can be. And maybe what comes from it will be, this is what I learned from that. Or maybe something else. I've read little strange, quirky scripts that are fantastic because they're a bit of this, a bit of that, but they're their own thing. And then they get backing. And then you get a new script that's had everything that makes it a wonky shape chopped off so it becomes a square that can be recognized by fucking morons. And the thing that you were in love with has been murdered in order to get it made. By these people. And I understand the logistics of how, but it is a thing. Don't do it to yourself.
That's one of the hardest parts I feel like with nowadays with filmmaking, and you've been in it for a while, so you'll have a say on it. Like finance people are having a lot more say in what's getting made, which I feel like takes away from like the movies you said you would want to do, like the indie movies. There's less and less of those getting opportunities to be made. The $20 million movies are kind of gone now. They're making like $5 million movies or $100 million movies. Like there's a big category of films that are just, they're not really
That's
trusting.
true. You know, there's a brilliant explanation of that from Matt Damon on YouTube, if you want to look about it, when he's talking about, you know, what led to that with the death of VHS, you know. But the thing that I think I've noticed is that what call themselves independent films that are trying to get made now by people with no money and no resources, they're not making independent films. They're making wannabe commercial films. They're trying to get picked up by the people that I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They're touting their wares. They're cutting off their own, you know, I'm really shocked by what is now described as independent because it has nothing independent about it. It's a kind of all of the worst aspects of an over-commercial film, and they've done it to themselves so they get picked up by daddy.
Yeah,
Do you know
rather
what I
than
mean?
having an independent film that is doing something risky,
It's like, okay,
they're
if I'm
taking out the
independent,
risk.
they're neutering, they're cutting off their own balls, they're clipping their nails, they're cutting their hair, and they're trying to make nice. For who? You know, and I'm seeing that a lot at the moment. And you know, sometimes you can see it in films, you can see the market they're catering to. It annoys me so much.
And the industry it's changed quite a bit these last 10 years with streaming and all these different platforms, all these different TV shows and different movies. And we've seen the effect it's having on movies. Like, I mean, we're seeing it, you know, every other month. I was telling him, like, I love going to movie theaters. Always grew up going to movie theaters. And now I think streaming encourages people in a lot of ways, for as great as it is in some ways, it also encourages you to stay home, encourages you kind of like to sit on your ass and not go out as much, not be in these like communal environments as much.
Yeah.
And I can just feel that now when I go to the movies. You know, I can kind of feel people.
Oh, but people know less how to behave in theaters as well, you know.
People are reluctant to go.
Yeah.
You know, people are reluctant to go, and now a lot of the films, you know, it's all these monster big budget films that are just.
No, that's what you were saying. There's a monster big budget, and then, yeah, it's like that's all of that money and a lot of the talent has gone into streaming. So that's where a lot of those, you know, those writers and, you know, I mean, listen, I don't have any answers for it, but like,
me neither.
you know, there's lots of great things that have come out of streaming.
For sure.
I mean, one of the things that I think has come out of streaming is that now that Americans' understanding of British culture is widening. What I was saying before about people trying to make stuff for a specific market, I always get annoyed with British stuff that's designed for the Americans' idea of the Brits.
Interesting.
You know, and you might not recognize it, but I really want to go to England because of Downton Abbey. Like, yes, but the real England is so much more interesting than that. I'm not saying that is not interesting, but like, and the great thing about streaming is that stuff that's made for a British audience is now available, so you can see the real stuff rather than stuff that is made with a view to the the American
Cater to the
market.
American.
Would you say
Well,
like
I
a
know
movie
that-
like Train Spotting, is that made for your audience that just happened to work here?
Yeah, well, it's certainly, if it had been made by a big studio, the accents would have been too strong. Though, certainly. I mean, that's from a different period, really. And there's always been people like Mike Leigh and Ken Loach and stuff like that make But I'm talking about people trying to make films in England and trying to get them back and trying to take out anything that will confuse certain people.
So you see, like, there's movies that we watch here and we're like, great, and then back there they're like, what is this?
I don't
It's
know.
like an idea of a British
Yeah, I
movie.
mean, we all have our versions of it, but yeah, there's a certain kind of Englishness that is very commercial, or a Britishness that's commercial, that's not really that accurate.
Do you have a big pet peeve on set?
On set?
Or just a pet peeve as an actor? Like something that you just cannot stand?
Like if you and I were in a scene together and I showed up and hadn't learned my lines yet, and I kept screwing up.
No,
you know what I mean?
You never know.
That made me mad.
But I don't know. I would say my biggest pet peeves is people who are dicks. That's people who put their insecurity onto other people. Because I believe that everyone has a right to be insecure. Everyone's insecure. People who pick on people lower down in the pecking order as opposed to up. Anyone who manifests their insecurity by kicking downwards or by taking it out on someone who can't tell them to fuck off without losing their job is an asshole.
And you've seen that?
One rarely sees it. I generally work with pretty good people.
Yeah.
It's very rare, but it's unforgivable. I
I've
don't
seen
give
a little
shit.
bit of that.
And I've
Just
seen the
ego.
best actors in the world who don't do that.
That are just humble, nice people.
They're just people,
Yeah.
I don't think
It's- yeah, you're right, just
you don't
people.
go into a shop and say, "Oh, that guy behind the counter was really humble." It was just a person.
Yeah, just a person.
People who act like people, and anyone who doesn't act like that, I have no time for. I mean, I say I don't like. They
Yeah.
become invisible to me.
That's one thing that he's been trying to. I mean, we've both been talking about, like, the older that I get. If you're not for me, you're not for me. I'm totally fine with you not being in my life. If you're not serving it, you're not nice. See, I don't even need to entertain you.
Well, I mean, it's a thing in life. If someone has a problem with me, the first thing I do is I work out: is there something that I've done that I need to make good? Is there something? I'll look at my behavior, and I think that's the first thing you should always do. If that's not the case, well, fuck them. I don't mean attack them or whatever. Leave them be. You don't need to. Countermeasures are not necessary. Just like
Exactly.
Yeah, you don't need to please them.
you don't need to please them. You don't need to confront them.
Just
unless
fall
they're-
back.
fall
The
back.
fallback
Yeah.
method. It's a great method.
Exactly. Just
What-
lightly blur them.
What is
Just a
what is-
a smattering of blur.
Yeah, for sure.
what is one of the most fun sets you've ever been on?
The Diplomat.
Really?
Well, Knight's Tale was amazing fun. Knight's Tale was one of the best.
Like, were you-
a very drunk?
Wait, were you really on the
Yeah, I was gonna
horses?
say, did you have a stunt guy?
Yeah. How does that work?
Well, me and Heath were there for 6 weeks, 2 months, 3 days. I can't tell. We were very drunk.
Wait, really?
In Prague, where we were filming it.
Sounds like
Not
so
when we
much
were
fun.
filming. Not
Yeah.
when we were filming. We were, and all we did was horse riding and jousting and going to the pubs. And we had
So that was actually you up there.
No, this is the story. So me and Heath, not just Heath, a couple of Heath's mates came out later, and but basically it was just us. Then we started filming, and most of the time they would not then let us on the horse. They then told us they just wanted to look like we could before. They were no, because when people are getting baffed, and they worked out that it was more cost effective and looked better on camera if they literally got people from Las Vegas, from those, because they do those
Renaissance
shows,
festivals.
and smashed the shit out of them, then paid their hospital bills and gave them blood money. Okay, I don't want this may make news. It may not be entirely true, but I
Cut
think
that.
they did have. They would just hit people for real. No, they weren't real lancers because that would kill people. But balsa wood, they don't.
This is what
Yeah.
they do. They're trained at doing.
Yeah,
it.
yeah, and there were a lot of casualties. That was part of the deal.
Yeah.
And they got paid properly. But that's why it's so good. And me and Heath, we would have 2 horses.
People getting
I would have a
rocked.
close-up horse.
For $100,000, take the collarbone. Baby.
No, it isn't. But like my Adamar's horse, the racing one was this ferocious, stallion, like ready to go. So you pick one that's, let me at him. Always not good for close-ups because the camera's here and you're like that, right?
Yeah.
So they had another horse that was a similar color. It was like this. And I don't know if they gave him weed or something, but and he had a bit of patch on his nose, so they'd color that in to make him the same color. So I get on him, can't remember his name. I get on him for the close-ups, and he'd just sit there. And then when it was time to go, they put me in the other one like that. So that's what we do.
You had
So
the
we
black
do
horse, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His horse
So
was
we would
gangster.
do a lot, and
Yeah.
I had the black armor, which means at 100 degree heat. So the thing with bad guys, they conduct more heat. It's much hotter to be the bad guy because it's black, and you're in, heat with silver reflecting,
Wait, what time of year was this that y'all were
It's a
filming?
summer. We were there for 6 months, all through like
That's
100
hilarious.
degrees.
Hot
That
take.
armor
The
had to be
villain's
hot.
a lot hotter.
Sometimes, occasionally, with a hangover on a Monday or a Tuesday. Or
So
whatever.
he was a drinker. You guys had fun when you weren't
we,
shooting.
we were just, we were in Prague. We
Yeah,
were,
they're mates, just having a blast.
Was he a nice guy?
a great friend of mine, lovely guy, really great guy. They all were actually.
Really? That whole set was just.
The whole set was amazing.
Yeah.
So that was a lot of fun, but The Diplomat is so much fun. All of us. I mean, me and Kerry, we have a laugh. We spend a lot of time just being stupid
And
try to keep the same energy of playfulness in all of it. Because when I read the first couple of scripts of The Diplomat, I just thought it was funny. It just was witty. It reminded me of the old kind of screwball comedies, like a serious situation. They've got this genre, kind of subgenre called the comedy of divorce. And examples would be His Girl Friday, The Philadelphia Story, about a couple splitting up, maybe divorced, come back together, they still got something. They kind of hate each other, love each other, blah, blah, blah. And that's a really good dynamic. And they get each other's jokes, and they love each other, and they hate each other. And, it's just a really cool, thing. So I recognized that. The first thing I thought was, this is really funny, and it's really good. And I'm just trying to always maintain that sense of fun in it.
It seems like a fun show. That set seems pretty wild.
Oh, it's great fun. Everyone's lovely.
and how long do you guys shoot all those episodes? Like,
Well, it was really long last year. We only did 6 episodes, but it was like 10 months because we had a strike for 4 months in the middle of it.
true, yeah.
But yeah, 6 months, 7 months.
So you're really around these people a lot.
Oh, yeah.
They kind of like become family in some ways,
No, exactly.
right?
And it's like, it's not like you're not tearing around with each other all the time and hanging out every night. You're with each other all day. And it's just like, you just want it to be easy, and no one's trying to be funny. No one's trying to, perform. You just try to have a nice day, do your work.
Do you enjoy being, like, character-wise, do you enjoy being on a TV show more than a movie? Because you can, like, dive into that a little bit more?
Well, for a long time, I preferred doing TV and theatre to film, because for a long time when I was doing a film, it was never really the part that I want. If I read a script, I think, I want to play that. And I go, no, not him, the guy behind him dressed in black. Okay, But when I was doing a play or often TV, it was far more the kind of role that I wanted to do. And that's not a bad trade-off. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm really enjoying the TV stuff I'm doing at the moment, because it's like really complex characters, like Man in the High Castle. Like I did one episode of The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, playing this character who's a kind of drunk artist. And I don't think, maybe one day, that I would be cast in a part that good in a film, unless I was very, very lucky right now. Not a big film, but on TV, it gives me a chance to do what I'm actually best at, which is a kind of comedy thing.
Quirky, fun guy.
Well, I don't know how you describe it, but like what people think I am best at, I'm actually not naturally that great at it. I've had to practice some, I pat myself on the back for the stuff that people think is my forte, because it's not actually my forte. I have to control my natural urges to pull faces or to I have to close it all down.
Really, like,
in order
no,
to play
serious
those.
role.
No, and
Can't
that
do
probably
that.
gives me an energy, but it's not it's not my natural energy at
Yeah.
all,
Well, how much has your preparation for a role that might not be typically, like you said, natural to you, changed from like when you were 21, like you said, when you're, preparing, drinking, smoking?
When I was 21, I never played parts. I never played the kind of parts when I was young that I played through my career.
Yeah, it
No
wasn't
one
a character.
who knew me would ever think of me to play a kind of silent, a silent but strong. You know what I mean?
Me either.
You know what I
Me
mean?
either.
That's why I found over the years that if I would go in a room to meet people for a part that I could play and have throughout my career played, if I was in the room and met them as myself, they would often think, great, not our guy. Because I'm not really like the parts that I can play. I tend to talk a lot. I've got a lot of energy. I'm not very good at, I'm not naturally one of these, tell me more. And I've tried over the years. I'd be like, and I've really struggled with it over the years, that I would go into a room and my natural people-pleasing thing is that I would just talk too much. And I would catch myself going, it's too late to be mysterious.
They know everything.
It's too late.
Would you
know?
go into an audition, like after knowing that, would you go into an audition and be...
Oh, fuck it. Do
Yeah?
you know what I mean? You can't live your life that way. Yeah, maybe I go try to, but then my personality is me. I'm not going to like, and sometimes I think people who I might not think are particularly talented can go into a room and be like, and everyone thinks, oh, we're in the company of something here. It's a trick, but I wish it was one I could pull off.
I mean, he knows me very well. I'm very similar. I walk in there and I'm Judah. I talk so much.
Is there an experience that it seems like you went through a lot of growth from what you're saying and how you're explaining things?
I went through a lot of mistakes. I think hopefully if you're lucky, that's the same thing. I
always say that.
Fucked up a lot. Missed opportunity. I'm not saying I'm sorry about it all. I'm very grateful for it all, But yeah, every bit of wisdom that I now have, my own version of wisdom for me,
right,
is having bashed my head against the wall, trying to knock through and go, oh, the wall's not moving. Okay, what am I doing?
So these mistakes have kind of pushed your growth as an actor, is what you're saying.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And also, if anyone ever asks me, sometimes people say, oh, do you have any advice for young? It's like a really panicking moment, Flattering to be asked, but at the same time, the only thing that I found myself saying over and over is, don't do to yourself what I described little independent films are now doing. Don't hide the bits about you that make you not the average shape, because that's you. That's all you have, And they will try to do that for you. But everything that makes you not belong is your ticket. Everything that makes you an imposter is your invite to the room. Everything about you that is wrong is what is right. So you don't have to play that all the time, but don't turn yourself into a square. I mean, that's easier said than done. It's taken me years to realize, and it's still a process of, but every odd take you have on things is so much more valuable than the median version of that you see everywhere else. Do you know what I mean? People go into hospitals to see sick people and they don't know what to do, so they copy films they've seen. That's what happens.
I'm having like some deja vu. The last person to tell me that was my late acting coach, Elizabeth Kemp, who passed away. And she had this thing called the green light. And that was the parts of yourself that you would never want anyone else to see.
Yeah, you don't have to talk about it in interviews.
And she was like, but those are what make you you.
Yeah.
The stuff that everyone sees that are all great, like those are cool. Those are also you. But the parts of you that you don't show anyone, the quirky things, the things that make you different, she goes, those are just as important as those other things.
Yeah, you don't have to force them on other people, but it's me. You don't have to do all that shit.
I'm not that saucy. I'm not that saucy.
No, but it's your own business.
Yeah.
But
not conforming to I can be myself and I don't have to be.
And sometimes you might choose to conform to something else, but just it's a choice and not and that's, I realized when I was talking about it, that what I now see with these independent scripts is that they're already doing it to themselves in preparation to be picked up. It's and I can understand it. I just did it to myself, and it just meant that I became this kind of block, My early work on TV, I'm so wooden and frightened.
I actually have an interesting question about this. Do you like reading scripts, or do you because some people love them, they read them, no problem. Some people hate them. I worked for a few producers, and they hated reading them. They're in this industry 40 years. They don't want to read them. So I would call him. I'm like, I'm reading 2 scripts a day.
I'd read them with him.
Yeah, I'd send him, and I could only report back the ones that I thought were worthy.
Probably fun if you don't. You have to.
It was great for me not having to be like, oh my god, can I play this? It was I can read this and have no.
Is this part available? Yeah, no, exactly.
I did wonder that,
Yeah, I mean, if I had to read a certain amount of scripts, and I had to have that, then I would probably develop that. But for me, there's nothing more exciting. The best moment for me is reading a script and getting this feeling on the back of my neck. There is nothing like that. And then, honestly, I think that's probably the best.
Yeah.
And then you have kind of versions of that when you're doing it, if you're lucky. But that moment when you think, oh my God.
Little butterflies.
And for me, over the years, if I read something that was really, really great, I just think, let's keep going. Because if it's this good and they're offering it to me, how many pages do we find out he's a paedophile? or he blah, 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 you know, like, or he dies in the next page or whatever. And if it keeps on being that, this is a few years ago, if it kept on being that good till the end, I'll think, I'm not going to get this. Because once a part is like that, there's a certain, you know, they have a list of people, you know, that's why you need to be in a
Yeah,
hit.
you get it if they say no and they say no and they
Well,
say
and it's just a commercial thing. Do you
Yeah.
know what I mean? It's like if you've not been in a big hit, then, you know. So I've been very good at looking for great opportunities that other people might not see. Like I can see that this part, it's not big enough for some of those guys to get it or to consider it, but it's just big enough that I could get this and I can really fucking do something with it. I'm not always right. But, you know, you have to be kind of canny. And over the years, I've been like that. I've, like, tried to see opportunities and think, okay, if I'm offered something, people have a list of, like, the things that are important. Director, script, part, cast, and then you could say money, location. If you're
Yeah.
For me, 5 out of 5, that's a career if you get one of those. I've probably had that once, twice in my life. The rest of the time, a good 3 out of those, as long as one of those is not money. And that's always going to be my thing, and sometimes that's caused me trouble, but it means that I've never felt ashamed of myself.
What was it like when, because it was such a crazy, interesting movie, when you got old, what did you think when you got that?
Well, when I read the part, I had problems with it. I read the part and I thought, okay, well, he's signified as racist when he's not crazy. I think that loses the point. I would like to argue that that should not be the case, because I've always thought it's very interesting about white people whose racism comes out with psychosis and with the onset of dementia, that something that was there comes out. That is interesting.
Interesting.
And I want to play that. I also want to play it English. And I thought, okay, I'll lose myself the part or get it. So I did it that way. And then I had a long chat with him and he said, okay.
When did you express that? In the audition process?
I asked to talk to him. I said, I
Before you
have,
shot it?
No, afterwards. Because I sent this out. I said, I'm going to do it English. I'm going to not say that line. I'm going to blah, 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 blah. And that's my statement. He's either going to say, fuck you. And he said, I'm interested. I thought, okay. So I spoke to him.
That's pretty dope. Like,
Yeah.
you're like, this is how I believe, this is how I'm interpreting it.
Well, I wanted to play that version. It's, you know, I love the director, but, you know, I thought, you know, and it worked. And you know, it actually was quite interesting because I know that he still kind of wanted to imply that the racism was already there. Well, of course it was already there. That's my point. But I just thought that was the thing I was fighting for. And that was, you know.
Yeah, you weren't leading with that.
Yeah, you weren't leading with that. So that was very interesting. And it's like we were filming during COVID, in this COVID bubble on this
COVID
beach.
bubbles.
It was very, very strange, you know.
COVID bubbles was my father and my brother were in the basketball COVID bubble in Disney, and I remember like my brother would call me and was like, dude, it's like the strangest experience. Like there's no fans, like we can't see family, we're just stuck here. Like everybody's like getting annoyed with each other.
Isn't it funny how this idea of like success and fame can evaporate like this, an illusion? I remember being in Cannes at the Hotel de Cap when I was there in 1997, and it was only famous people. I mean, I was like relatively unknown, but everyone, it was just like, what if you were to throw a croissant, it would bounce off 8 megastars before it hit the ground. And it became null because everyone was famous. It was like, you could see them go,
Yeah.
they just became a load of
No one's excited.
normal farting people, right? And then I think there was a bus that had come from somewhere who shouldn't be there. A bunch of people came in who were just normal people. And suddenly they became celebrities again. So
That's
it's just
so interesting. Like, yeah, I
because
felt that
you
way
need
watching the SNL thing.
non-celebrities for celebrities to be celebrities.
That's so true.
I felt that way watching the SNL.
Otherwise, they're just people
Right.
Yeah, the SNL
standing
50
around
year
drinking
reunion
overpriced
was like that.
Bellinis. You know,
It was.
The SNL 50-year reunion thing.
Yeah.
It's you got David Letterman next to Kevin Costner, and all of them were just like,
Yeah, it's so true.
"Oh, hey, what's up, Lady Gaga? What's
Yeah,
up,
yeah.
Sharon?" It's like there's nothing about like where's the bubbliness? But you're right. It's just a bunch of people that, however you said it, a bunch of normal people that
But that's
fart.
also, your brother and your father, there's like all of that world, it just changes.
It does.
And we were a load of people staying in a hotel and then driving just to one place, the beach. We weren't allowed to explore, But the weird thing for me was I had all this aging makeup on. The great thing about putting on age is being old already and then having aging makeup on. So you look in the morning in your mirror and you think, God, you wrinkly old fuck. And then they add 30 years slowly over the course of like 3 hours. And at the end of the day, you take it off and you go, I'm doing great.
Yeah, facts.
You know, and I found out.
That's a confidence booster.
Oh my God, it's like, what are you worried? And then the next morning you go, ugh, again. But still, we worked out, I discovered that it took an hour to take off the makeup in makeup afterwards, or at the end of the day on the beach and the water was like hot, they would leave me a couple of towels and I could swim out and just pull it off over the course of about 10 minutes in the warm water in the waves on my own. And so the end of every day, on my birthday,
That's the move.
it was my birthday. I can't remember what age I turned, but older even. And I didn't tell anyone it was my birthday because I don't like having happy birthday sung by a load of people I don't really know. And it was early days, it feels worse. I just keep my counsel. I talk to the people I love, Anyway, they sung happy birthday to someone else because it was someone else's birthday. And I went out and I pulled off my makeup. And it was just like, what a beautiful moment that was.
Yeah, it seems like a moment that would stick with you for the rest of your life.
It was great.
How many days did you have to put on the makeup for 3 hours a day?
A lot of days. By the way, the reason I don't like having happy birthday sung to me is because it was something I tried to, when I turned 50, I was doing Man in the High Castle, which is a thing about Nazis. Yeah. And I was on my own, and I wasn't filming with anyone I knew, and I didn't want them to know that it was my birthday because I didn't want a bunch of strangers, total strange, because I thought better to spend the morning FaceTiming people I loved, and then go and work, and then come home and have some dinner. And unfortunately, the word had got out. I walked into a room with 150 extras.
Oh my.
Dressed as
In
Nazis.
Nazi gears?
Who stood up and sung "Happy Birthday, Dear Rupert" to me.
Oh my goodness.
It's a nightmare.
And it made me laugh.
In
it
like
was
leather
so
Nazi
terrible.
gear?
Yeah.
It became
Rupert,
fabulous.
Rupert.
It was like, this is my nightmare. It was fabulously terrible. But wait, it wasn't like, what was I going to do? It was like, thanks, guys.
Yeah, I don't like when people like if you're at a restaurant, do not bring me something with a candle and sing me happy birthday. I hate it. I can't do it.
It's worse when they're Nazis.
Oh, I can imagine 100 Nazis in front of you.
That's wild. That's pretty
That is
crazy.
wild.
And Rupert, too, is like,
When was the last
Thank you,
time
guys,
someone
thank
called
you.
you that? Does your mom call you
all the
Rupert?
time.
Oh, really?
That's not something I have a problem with. I get called Rupert when we're filming. Or anything that begins with R, I'm fine with.
Is that like, does your mom call you that? Or is it
Does
Rufus?
my mom call me what?
Rupert.
Why would my mum call me Rupert?
Rather than
The
Rufus.
fuck you took?
Is that crazy?
Yeah.
They got it wrong on the show?
Why would his mom call him Rupert?
Why would my mum?
Is there nicknames from your mom?
I've already
Not
got a name
Rupert.
as stupid as Rufus. Why would you call me Rupert? Why would the nickname be less stupid than my name? What the fuck are you talking about?
Why would she
Someone
replace?
said, "Is Rufus your real name?" Who would change it to Rufus? What kind of person would change their name? I love it now. I'll fight for
Could
it.
be an actor thing.
I don't know if I know another Rufus. Do you?
I
You
know a
might not know any
musician.
human Rufuses.
I'm at the point now, like, maybe you might think this is, I don't know, to save time.
Yeah.
I'll give a script 25 pages. And if I'm not like,
Oh, sometimes it doesn't take as long as that. I mean,
okay, yeah.
if a script, you can't work a script out, carry on. But for me, normally cliches.
Yeah.
But you can make a mistake. You can make a mistake if the writing seems bad. I remember reading a play, and the first 4 pages, I thought, God, this writing is so terrible. I'll stick with it because it's just one character whose writing seems so bad. And then I kept going, and then he had a line, "I have come from Prague." And then I realized that the terrible writing was the fact that he wasn't speaking perfect English, and it ended up being a brilliant role for me that I did.
Interesting.
But, you just keep on, because if something's an anomaly, keep going. So I tend not to give up if something's odd or strange or I can't work it out, because sometimes that's a sign of greatness.
Speaking of Prague and like great cities you've worked in,
I worked for 5 years, 5 times a row in Prague.
Really?
Yeah.
so you probably know it well.
Well, I knew, yeah.
Yeah.
I knew it well then. I mean,
yeah.
it'd be strange. It was already changing, but I did so many jobs in a row in Prague.
Do you have a favorite place that you've traveled to because of work that you're like?
Well, it was Prague, but Rome, I have to say.
Rome.
I loved
Rome's awesome.
Prague. And I did The Illusionist was the last thing I did there, which is a great movie that I'm very proud of with Edward Norton and Paul Giamatti. A film about a magician. And that was, I think,
one of my favorite magician films ever. Like I've always grew up loving magic as a kid.
Yeah.
And I remember seeing The Illusionist.
Yeah.
And I still love the movie to this day.
I love that film.
It's such a good.
That's a
great.
bad guy
film.
role, kind of, but complex. And I play roles like that complex till the end of time.
I'm still confused about your role because
Yeah.
I don't know if
He's innocent.
I was
So the bad guy's not him.
I literally had an argument with my friend today about your role.
That's why they lean
about your
so
role.
heavily into me making it so essential that I hit her at one point. So I deserve it. Do you know what I mean?
Correct.
Because if he didn't do that, because then it's like, yeah, but, he's capable of it, blah, blah, blah. But actually the thing in question, he's innocent of.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
So he gets framed to the point that he commits
Yeah.
suicide.
So Edward Norton's kind of the bad guy.
But that's what's interesting. This is what's interesting. Grey characters, good people who are also bad people are also good. So for a while I felt pigeonholed in bad guy roles because any role that is a bad guy through and through is not great writing. Because in reality, they rarely exist. In films, there's a goodie and a baddie. You're talking about a genre film, which people are just like dressed in black, dressed in white.
Yeah.
Really interesting characters with great writing, great directors tend to be a mixture of both. I'll play those forever. So, my thing would be the same with playing good guys. You want to mix in a little bit of...
Yeah, not sure if they are.
Yeah,
or not.
or just make them
Qualities
real
that-
people with faults and,
Yeah.
That was a great couple year stretch for me because you had Illusionist and Prestige back to back,
Yeah,
two
yeah.
great magician movies.
Yeah, but again, The Prestige was, for understandable reasons, a bigger hit. So, just career-wise, it's very... it's very useful to be in a hit, and if it's not a hit, it does remain quite difficult to get big parts.
Well, you're in a big hit now, getting nominated. Is award season, and how is it as fun as it looks? I guess from afar, it looks like you're going to all these awards and the
Yeah,
It is-
the
it
Critics'
is-
Choice Award, was that
Yeah,
fun?
it is fun. My attitude to that is,
and you have to watch all your nominees as
Yeah,
well. You
yeah,
have to watch
no.
those shows, or so you know.
I mean, the
what
joke I've always made is I always wanted a lot of nominations so that my indifference to awards finally registers. Because you can't send the Native American to refuse your Oscar if you haven't been nominated. You know what I mean? And as far as I'm concerned, my belief in whatever value I have as an actor has been developed around a moderate amount of success. I believe that the good work that I've done is good, and the okay work that I've done is okay, and that's not always been reflected in awards that I've had. I have to keep my own counsel, and I kind of if I get an award, I will suddenly believe in them for long enough to be gracious about it. But I want to believe in myself without that. I don't want to be robbed of the value I feel in my work by not being nominated. I try not to believe in any of it at all because I've actually sustained myself quite well in the past. I really worry about screwing with that. Do you know what I mean? Of course it'd be fantastic to have those things, but I try to really believe that it doesn't matter. Because you
your
can be
value as
so
an actor.
easily robbed of all your resilience that you've built up by getting close to it and then taken away. You think, I thought I convinced myself that I was okay without these, and now I realise that was just a front.
Yeah,
I
your
don't know.
value as an actor or your work
Yeah.
is it's not with an award.
Well, no, I
You
won't say the actors' names, but I have seen movies in the last several years where you can kind of see certain actors trying to go for this role of a movie to get this thing because I feel like maybe there's some connection to how they feel about themselves. By getting
or
it.
you
For them,
can
it's a
understand. It's a lovely thing to know that people think you're great. Do you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. And I've had awards in the past, and I actually find the things themselves quite nerve-wracking. I don't take to it naturally. My feeling about awards is I want to have won without having to go through that moment because it just makes
Sitting
me,
there
I have a lot of anxiety about stuff like that. In the moment I think, please don't call my name because I don't want to have to get up there. And then afterwards I think, I wish they called my name. So it's a kind of mixture. I think a lot of it is anxiety. But no, I don't criticize the people who want them and get them, etc. It would be. I would love the roles and the freedom of choice that would come with more fame and more awards, but I would not like the life that comes with that. It's a very difficult balance, and I know it's not a reasonable expectation.
Pretty hand in hand, right?
But if it comes my way, if it's the right kind of thing, that I will gladly accept it and be grateful. But I'm very grateful for the level of notoriety that I have at the moment, which doesn't really stop me from being able to do anything, and I can still have a really nice career. You know, like, unfortunately, I know myself that I'm a bit more of a tart than I want to admit to. If I was offered something big and shiny, I'd probably want to do it, you know. If someone said, you know, if I read it and it was a great role and, like, more fame and stuff like that, it'd be hard to turn it down. But I have a suspicion that I would really miss my life now, because I can go anywhere. I mean, at the moment, because The Diplomat's out, I'll get recognized a bit more.
Yeah, you get put in a Marvel movie.
Yeah, I mean, it better be for something that you
All of a sudden,
love.
your life could change.
Because when people, it used to be in the past that I would get a job and I think, will this change my life? You know, and now I think, oh, will this change my life? Because I like my life.
Do you get stopped more back home or here in California?
No, it varies. Like, I have the level of fame where if I'm on TV and something, I get approached, and after a few months, it stops, which is great. Because it's very rarely something that can make me not want to go somewhere or sit in the corner with a book or something like that. I can read in cafes.
Yeah, you
and
still have
if
your
I'm on
privacy.
TV at the time, someone comes up and wants a photograph, say, can we do one when you leave or when I leave, rather than now, you know.
So it's a great thought. If a big monster, life-changing role came your way in the way that you're saying, you would have to really stop and think, if I am able to get this role and take this role, would I want to?
No, what I'm saying is I'd probably do it.
You probably
Do you know
do
what I
it.
mean?
Yeah.
Because I would really love to play a fucking great role in something brilliant. I always have. It doesn't need to be a big role. It doesn't need to be a big film, but just something. The kind of things I've done in theatre, where when I do a play, someone sends me a play, it has to be, I'm doing this, shit. How do I tell my wife? I'm doing this, fuck. How am I going to work my life around this? But I'm doing it because I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And I very rarely get offered a part in a film that is like that. It's like,
Yeah, like,
there's
I'll
something
do
that
it.
really, like, no one else can do this. You know?
You know, what'd be a really good coffee table book is all the people's like speeches to all the awards they didn't win. Like, if think about,
hey, give it. We know you got it in your pocket.
Who's going to send those
hand
in?
it over.
yeah, like send it. Can you imagine you had to collect them after every
Scraps of napkins.
every
Oh, shit,
Oscar?
my wife.
Yeah.
There's like a whole book of like everyone's speeches.
That
That'd be
is some
fucking
like,
hilarious.
And I'd just like to say who's an asshole.
That'd be so hilarious.
I do love seeing when people do win awards, the other people. It's fun. Sometimes you could tell like someone really thought they were going to win.
Oh, for sure.
And then you see them walk up and you're like, just an award, man.
For sure.
Sometimes it's so naked. But, you know, it's, you know, having a bit of the light just coming on you, and you could feel it literally. It's not a zoom lens. It's literally there. Someone's like,
Yeah, and you're just like,
Oh, the camera's
And
just,
you also-
you gotta just be cool.
just
Like,
hovering on you.
and you also know that it's not, let's capture this wonderful moment. The one that you want, no one wants to look at the winner. You know, you want to look at the cover up, and then like, that's what everyone loves.
I feel like I would just do the cheat. I
So
just
you're
lean
very
away.
aware of that when it's next to your face. So if you're not ready, you better be. If someone looks pissed off, it's deliberate.
And it'll be
It's
a meme.
deliberate.
And you'll be all over online too. That's the problem.
I'd be
Your
like-
reaction will be blown up in front of millions of people. I know you're a big theater guy, but like, what are some of your favorite movies that you watched as a kid, and even now, what are some of your favorites?
It's always funny having a conversation like this because whatever comes to my head at that time, and I'll watch it and go, why did I say those? Why did I forget my favorite film? And that will happen now. But like, okay, the first one that came into my head that's not representative of, oh, this is his film, Time Bandits, right? The films of Terry Gilliam.
I haven't seen Time
Me
Bandits.
either.
Well, it's Terry Gilliam, who's in Monty Python, made all of these films. Time Bandits and Brazil are his greatest.
I've heard about Brazil.
Brazil.
Yeah, I've never seen it, but I've heard
Brazil
about
is
it.
a crazy film.
Yeah.
Jonathan Pryce and Robert De Niro, and he made a film that the producers wanted to change the ending. It's a mad dystopian film. It's got elements like City of Lost Children and Metropolis, and it's very, very wild. Ian Holm is in it. It's one of my favorite actors. And the producers were insisting that he change the ending so it's a happy ending. And there was a massive fight, and they refused to release it. So he did a private screening to the Critics Association of America, who voted it the #1 film of the year. Then they had to.
That's crazy how
And did they release it?
producers.
Did they have a release after that?
Yeah. Very
That's
famous film
crazy.
with his ending. He's just a kind of maverick, you know. So I loved the films of Terry Gilliam growing up. One of the first films I ever saw that made me want to be an actor was, these are just like weird things, like, I don't know if it's even a good film, but like Magic I saw with Anthony Hopkins playing a ventriloquist whose dummy takes over him.
I haven't seen that either.
I have not seen that.
But it's a good film. It's
It's
subjective.
kind of schlocky, but it's just got Anthony Hopkins in it.
Good film is subjective. It was good for you.
Yeah, good for me at the time. But I remember
Yeah.
when I worked with Anthony Hopkins later on, my brother said, do you remember when you were like 9 years old? And you
Yeah.
were absolutely bowled over by Anthony Hopkins. And that makes so much sense, that he was like him and Charles Laughton in the Hunchback of Notre Dame. There's a British film duo called Powell and Pressburger who made a film called A Matter of Life and Death. In America, it's called Stairway to Heaven. And it's a black and white movie set half in heaven, half on earth during the war, half in color, half in black and white, about someone who's supposed to die, but there's a filing error in heaven, and he ends up, instead of crash landing, he lands alive on a beach.
That's hard.
That's
That's
a
a cool
And then
premise.
he has to send up a representative. They have a representative fighting for him in court in heaven to decide whether he should come back or not. But since in the interim, in the moment that they made the error, he fell in love with a girl on earth.
Oh no.
It's a great.
And
That's
at
a
the
great-
same time, it may in fact be possible
me up.
that
Yeah.
he's actually just got a brain tumor and they're operating on him, and you don't know whether it's true or him actually in battle in his head. And it's a black and white movie, and it's extraordinary. It's one of my favorite films.
Stairway to Heaven?
Stairway to Heaven. Matter
I
of
want
Life
to
and
watch
Death.
that today.
I'm just trying to think of this, but I mean,
Have you done a letterbox yet?
no.
Okay, I'm excited. Whenever you do one, have you send it to me. Have this.
Okay.
I'm excited to see that.
And I was obsessed very, very early. Mean Streets.
So
Mean
good.
Yeah,
Streets,
Mean Streets is great.
was incredible. There's a film made for TV film. Gary Oldman. I mean, Gary Oldman, Tim Roth. There's a film called Made in Britain. Again, it's a TV film. I'm just talking about influences on me. Tim Roth plays a skinhead youth, and I'd never seen someone in a film like a person that I knew before. I mean, like not someone that I hung out with.
Yeah.
The kind of skinheads who would hang around. That was an extraordinary film. State of Grace. State of Grace. Gary Oldman, Sean Penn, John Turturro, Robin Wright Penn.
Jeez, killer cast.
About
Killer
Irish hoodlums in New York. Awesome film.
I don't think I've seen State of Grace. Have you?
I watched it with my sister like 15 years ago.
Gary Oldman, all of Gary Oldman's early stuff. I don't think I've named any of my favorite films apart from Matter of Life and Death. I'm just like, that's a
great list of movies.
everything coming into my head.
I mean,
Because I don't want to say, I really like The Godfather. I mean, I do.
I mean, it might
Do you
be
know what I mean?
cliche. My favorites.
You
are
know,
like
all
that,
all the cliches. Yes.
my favorite movie is Spielberg's. He hates this movie.
It's
that
known
he
as his
made.
worst movie.
He won't even. Whenever they do like awards.
1942.
No, Hook.
Oh right.
Whenever they do like awards for him, he will make sure they do not even put it on the screen. That's how much he hates it.
It's so
Yeah.
good.
And I'm like, bro, you don't understand. Like me and my brothers, that movie is our favorite of all time. There's a lot of kids who love that movie, who are now adults, who still love that movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, yeah, maybe it's shit to you, but we love it. There's
Yeah,
actually
yeah.
a huge cult following of people who love Hook.
Yeah.
And like, Robin Williams is like one of my favorites of all time.
Yeah.
This is naturally like such an endearing movie for a kid. But yeah, it's like a subjective thing. It is whatever you love, you love.
One of my favorites is Cool Hand Luke. A lot of people
God, I love that
That's a
film
great
so
movie.
One of my
much.
favorite movies
Cool Hand
ever.
Luke's
Oh,
so
I'm really going to be kicking myself on the way home because I'm going to think of all the things I should have said. There's so many, but and it's like favorite songs. My real favorite songs of the years I don't listen to anymore because you just listen to them too much.
Yeah.
I'm far more likely to just listen for, So if I tell you my favorite film, I might not have watched it for years. I mean, from very young, I became obsessed with certain actors. Brando.
That's
The
Anything
reason
with
I went to
Brando.
my acting school that I went to,
Oh
I was
my
obsessed with
God.
all of them.
you love Brando.
On the Water. He's my favorite actor. He
Yeah.
is, him and Paul Newman. But Brando was, who you referenced earlier, Brando, when he won the Oscar for The Godfather, sent up a Native American to he didn't go to the Oscars.
As a
He
protest for the
boycotted
treatment
it.
of Native Americans.
So that's what he was talking about earlier. Marlon Brando sent
I didn't
her.
know that.
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
people-
I know it was a bit of a deep dive, mate.
People got so mad when he did that.
Yeah, John
'Cause
Wayne had to be restrained from
it's kinda
assaulting her because
Yeah.
of the treatment, because of the way
You got a bunch of racist dudes in the front row, dude.
by the way the
John Wayne
American
had
Indians.
to be.
No, yeah, I mean people were very, very angry.
Wow.
He turned down his Oscar. But I mean, the point I was making is you can't send someone to turn down your Oscar if you haven't been nominated. So
Brando
if
did
you
that.
want your distain for awards to register, you kind of got to get nominated. You know?
Yeah, no, Brando's like, he's
That's a gangster ass.
He's
It's like invite me so I can refuse to come.
who you send?
Wow.
Brando.
Yeah, Montgomery Clift.
I studied him for like 3 years. I love him. He's got some. He's like his resume with Judgment, Nuremberg, Red River.
Yeah.
Oh my
But
gosh.
also, like,
Montgomery
people who come
Clift.
from completely different. Like, I love Charles Lawton. Charles Lawton. He's a very unprepossessing Yorkshireman. He played the original Captain Bligh in Mutiny on the Bounty. He's a character actor. You know, he directed Night of the Hunter as well, which is a great, great film. A fabulous actor. I just love great acting.
This guy?
That's Charles
Yeah.
Lawton. Great. Claude Rains. I love actors from worlds before we knew about method, etc. Examples of early greatness. I love these discoveries.
That's why I fell in love with Montgomery Clift.
Yeah, exactly. Well, he was at the beginning of it. Frederick March, you know, people who were great in their own way before, you know, before the breakout of method acting, you know. And I love examples of classical actors who are also, like, I love Peter O'Toole is like, you know, completely different world. Cary Grant, completely different. It's a different thing, but it's fabulous in its own way.
I mean, that was Anthony Hopkins, right? He was a theater
Anthony
guy
Hopkins is
until
always
55 years old, right? And then he started doing film. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Hopkins for me, I think has been a great, great influence on me, because what I loved about Anthony Hopkins, I loved actors who weren't that well-known, British actors, well-known in Britain. John Hurt, Ian Holm, Anthony Hopkins, Colin Blakely. These were people who you might vaguely recognize if you were to see them. I mean, John Hurt more well-known, but people who could play any kind of part in any medium. They might do theatre, TV, radio, movies. They could play a lord, they could play a butler, they could play anything. They were useful actors. People who could just be brilliant and reliable in any kind. These were the people that I loved. Anthony Hopkins then became a star, but before then he was my favorite actor since I saw him.
I feel like you got to be
there
really
was
talented to be that dynamic and play any one of those roles.
Yeah, but it's also something that I think has always been valued in Britain, because they didn't have the same kind of star system. That what was really valued, or I suppose because the other thing wasn't quite so attainable, was to be a working actor who could play any different type of role, because it was really about just kind of having a career. The people that I grew up loving were plainly kind of half leading actors, half character actors.
Interesting.
You know, and that's the kind of thing that I love. Is like people who could play leads, but then I love the opposite too. I mean, I love people like Cary Grant or whatever, always the same, but just amazing, you know.
Yeah. That's so true, though. Like, some of my favorite actors, when I look back, that's one of my favorite things, is like liking an actor, looking back when they were supporting. And now they're like, oh, they're the lead of this big movie, but they were the one scene in this and this and that.
I love
seeing
spotting
that.
people. I remember watching Sense of a Woman.
Yeah.
And, you know...
I'm too old, I'm too blind.
yeah. And seeing the other kid who plays the one who doesn't do the right thing. And as soon as I spotted him going, hold on.
You know who
who
it
the
is?
fuck's that? Who the fuck's that? Who's that young kid? He's amazing. Who's he?
Say it again.
Philip
Redhead.
Seymour
He's a
Hoffman.
Yeah, it's Philip Seymour
Philip
Hoffman.
Seymour Hoffman. I don't know if it was his first role. He was a kid, and I remember going, he blew me away.
Incredible.
And I love that. That gives me a real buzz, spotting. Do you know what else I really love? Is realizing that I've dismissed someone and finding out I was wrong. You know, thinking that someone is miscast in something, or that maybe thinking that they're not very good, and then being blown away by them and going, you know what?
Little surprise.
I was wrong. It gives me faith. People can be misjudged. Do you know what I mean? And it's a really important thing to this is bigger than us.
Yeah.
You know, my first person I think of when you said that, not that I felt this way, but a lot of people felt this way, and you worked with him, was when he literally got cast as the Joker.
Exactly.
Did you know, like, oh, he's gonna fucking kill it? Because I think a lot of fans were like, "What the fuck?" And I was like, I thought it was interesting.
I love Heath, and I thought he was great. He surprised me, and Heath got better and better and better. And the thing about Heath is, he wanted it. He was prepared to take risks. He didn't want stardom. He wanted to do something interesting. He wanted to do something specific and strange and real that meant something to him. And he took losses to do that. It's what he wanted, and he made that happen. You know.
No, absolutely.
All right. So I have a blind ranking of some of my favorite plays. Hopefully
This is going to be such
seen
an
all of them.
embarrassment for me. All right, go on.
So we have 5 plays. You can rank them anywhere 1 to 5, but once it's in there, it's locked.
Okay.
Can't change it.
I don't have to do them though.
Wait, one
No.
being the best.
1 being the best, 5 being the worst.
Okay.
Number 1, The Importance of Being Earnest by Oscar Wilde.
4. It's a perfect play.
4. Okay. Number 2, A Streetcar Named Desire by Tennessee Williams.
How American heavy is this? Just
Not
before-
crazy.
Okay. 5.
Hamlet.
1.
And then 3 are Death of a Salesman by Arthur Miller.
All right, 2.
And then the last one, which is one of my favorites, Les Miserables, based on the Victor Hugo novel.
Well, we don't have many choices, do we?
Got the last one. You're 3 in it. That's a pretty good list.
That's a good list, though. I think
That's a
that's,
good
that's
list.
pretty solid list.
Have you
They're all great plays.
right? So okay, they weren't like too far out of left field with
No.
American.
It's a very nice little list you got there.
Not bad, huh?
Yeah.
And we have a last meal.
Yeah, if you had your last meal, you could eat anything in the world. What's the last thing you would want to eat?
It's so funny because there was a period where, I'd just be doing like cheat meals, and every Sunday I would have, it was like at first, because it was so to be not eating bread, and it became like the condemned man's last meal every Sunday, and I have this and that. After I've been doing that for a few months, I have to say it's really basic. There's nothing I like more than a fresh French loaf and butter. It's just one of the great things in the world.
Wow. French loaf and butter.
Just really, really good bread and butter. But that is for someone who, for years has struggled with trying to avoid carbs. Favorite meal?
French loaf and butter sounds
I mean, I love when they bring that to a table at a nice
Oh,
restaurant.
I have to say.
And there's salt on the butter.
Yeah.
No, I had like a me night several months ago, and I went and got literally a French loaf. I got some great French butter, and I went and picked up like a great French bottle of wine.
Yeah.
I
You had baguette
Okay,
wine.
no,
I had a solo night.
So I'd say
I drank the whole bottle.
yeah, a really, really simple but perfect aglio olio spaghetti with some bread and olive oil afterwards. Just
Yes.
the simplest thing.
Yes.
The simplest thing.
You gotta come. I make a mean aglio olio.
You really?
I really do. I really get into it. I take it very, very seriously.
Do you know what's really weird? Back in the day, when I was working in Rome, first time, 20 years ago, if I'm saying 20, it's probably fucking 30, but a long time ago, they had this thing that no one had heard of that you could only get in Rome. And I used to be like, there's this pasta that you can only get in Rome. And everyone's like, oh, God, you're so traveled. Cacio e pepe. And then something happened.
What?
Something happened.
Over the course of a year, Trader Joe's cacio e pepe this, cacio e pepe that, frozen cacio e pepe crackers.
It's like what my sister
why have
orders
you
every
robbed me
time
of the
we go
thing
out?
that made me sound like I was a seasoned traveler? So
Yeah,
fucking
cacio e
annoying.
pepe wasn't the most popular thing 10 years ago.
No,
nobody
you didn't get
couldn't
it
find
anywhere.
it. You couldn't find it. He's right.
My
That's
sister
really
Thank you for
love
backing
it.
me up.
Yeah, you're right. I'm
He's actually telling the
I'm
truth.
kind of thinking about it now. I'm like, wait a second. I don't remember cacio e pepe
Everything
being
else
cool.
has been bullshit. The one thing that you think,
Finally, gosh damn. Been waiting all damn.
that's actually not bullshit. Yeah.
And now you got people on TikTok doing cacio pepe.
Get your
and so-
pepe. Oh, God, that guy. Viv shoves that in my face every morning.
You should hear his last meal.
Go on.
Oh. See, I'm getting killed. Okay, I can't.
Really?
I'm gonna die on this hill for
Should I
people.
have felt better about bread and butter then?
Yes, you're fantastic.
Yeah.
Mine's not too far removed from bread and butter, just with meat in it.
Bread, butter, and meat.
Pretty much. Before I talk about mine,
That was a general foreign accent, by the way.
for people who talk
General.
about sushi as their last meal, I'm like, dude, no, absolutely not.
Too
Never.
healthy.
Who the hell wants sushi? It all tastes the same. If I close my eyes and you gave me a toro, a salmon, and a fucking
Other
yellowtail,
thing,
it would taste the same to me. My eyes were closed. I wouldn't know what was what.
Yeah.
So that's for the sushi lovers. I don't know. One of y'all chose it.
No. Mine's just steak and pasta.
Yours
You
is-
give me a spicy yellow vodka and a ribeye.
Okay, I
Last
said-
one.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, a gun was pressed against my head when I had to make this
Stop,
decision.
Mickey. Be proud
It was-
of
it was-
yourself.
Oh, him and Viv.
I
Be
said,
direct.
I said McDonald's.
I love a McDonald's.
I just said I want something super fattening and super quick, reward in my head. It's gonna be oh, this is so good for 5-10 minutes, and then I'm out, bro.
Yeah.
Fries, 20-piece, McFlurry, and a Big Mac. I'm out, bro. I'm leaving happy from.
Take me.
I do kind of want one now. I do God, you should be ashamed. Where's the nearest McDonald's?
Thank you. See, backing me up. So we back into. That's what we do. That's what we do.
Terrible. Don't you mind if I...
Thank you so much
Yo,
for
man, that was
coming
a
in and
blast.
spending
Real
time
pleasure.
with us. It was
Yeah,
so
man.
fun.